What does that Ten Rings Easter egg mean? You know, the one that appeared at the beginning of episode 3 of the Miss Marvel miniseries on Disney Plus. It's got to mean something, and I know everyone and their mother is talking about a possible connection between Shang-Chi and Miss Marvel, as in an Avengers-style team-up, and maybe that's true, but I've got another theory that doesn't necessarily mean that the first one won't happen, but it's still important to acknowledge how deep this theory of mine goes in the MCU, especially as phases 5 and 6 begin to unfold. We're going to discuss all of that right now. Welcome back to the Mama Saga, where this Marvel-loving mama is a mother by day, but breaks down comic book sagas, movies, and shows like Miss Marvel by night. Before we go any further, it should go without saying, but I'll just issue a warning. Spoiler alert! There are spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched the 3rd episode of Miss Marvel yet, you might want to exit this video and go watch it and then come back. Okay, so first let's talk about the Ten Rings Easter egg. During the opening scene, which is a flashback to British-occupied India in 1942, Kamala's great-grandmother Aisha and other friends, including Najma, who's apparently Cameron's mother, were all digging around in some ruins, searching for a bracelet that apparently can help the group return to their home. However, the ceiling's falling in and the British Army is apparently closing in, so the group has to make a break for it. And as the camera pans upwards, we see symbolism that is related to the Ten Rings. Now, if you've watched Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, you know that they're an artifact that begins in the possession of Zhu Wenwu, also known as the Mandarin. Not that Mandarin, this Mandarin. After somehow finding the mythical Ten Rings, he formed an army that he also called the Ten Rings and proceeded to use the Ten Rings, literally and figuratively, to conquer much of Asia, and in all likelihood, the surrounding areas. As you can see from this image, there are several parts of India that share borders with China, so it's very likely that the Ten Rings conquered the section of British-occupied India many, many years ago and had set up a Ten Rings temple, where that blue-looking Kree arm ended up, bearing at least one of what was very likely a set of negabands, which Aisha took with her as her group split up to escape both the collapsing roof of the temple and the British Army themselves. So I know everyone thinks that somehow the Ten Rings symbolism is an Easter egg. That means that the artifact that is the Ten Rings is directly linked to the bracelet or bangle or negaband that was found in that rubble by Aisha, which eventually made its way through Senna, perhaps bypassing Muniba, at this point we're not sure, and then ultimately ending up with Kamala. But I disagree. Also, when folks are saying that Ta Lo is in the same dimension as where the Miss Marvel miniseries Jin dwell, I really doubt it. In the MCU, Ta Lo is an ancient city that sits in its own pocket dimension. It's part of the multiverse that is only accessed through a portal on Earth. It's not called the Noor dimension or anything like that. There's no discussion of anything having to do with Noor or light that I recall. You let me know in the comments below if you recall any sort of references made to Noor or light or Jinn or anything like that in the Shang-Chi movie, because I'm saying a big old nope to that. The Jinn would have known about that and wouldn't be digging around for a bangle that needs a huge amount of energy to give them the boost they need, power like that of the sun, like Bruno knew after studying the work of Dr. Erik Selvig that centered on interdimensional travel, including wormholes. Remember those from Thor and the Dark World? But I digress. So no, I don't think that exactly is the connection between Miss Marvel and the Ten Rings. I do not think that Ta Lo and the Noor dimension are synonymous with one another. Is it possible that Wenwu battled a member of the Kree race, since Kree have been hanging out on Earth in secret for many, many years themselves, and he conquered the Kree with his 10 rings of power and then took their tech and had it stored or maybe even on display in the now decimated temple of the 10 rings that we saw in the beginning of Miss Marvel episode 3? Maybe, and that would explain how we got a severed blue arm in that scene too. I give that a big ol' Stanley ha! Plus, let's consider something else. The 10 rings were glowing blue whenever Wenwu used them, all throughout his time of having them in his possession. Now, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we know that colors are important when it comes to powers. They could be related directly to Infinity Stones and the fabric or dimensions of the universe where these singularities came from, right? So blue is the color that corresponds to the Space Stone that at one point was part of the Tesseract. And remember, that artifact which ended up housing the Space Stone was in, you know it, Asgard, not Ta Lo. The 10 Rings artifact is more like a cosmic type of energy. Now, when Wenwu fought his son Shang-Chi in the finale of the movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings, remember what happened? The blue energy that was being emitted from the artifact collectively shifted over as Shang-Chi won them over from blue to orange. Once Shang-Chi's chi or life force or inner power overrode the artifact, it was orange after that, no more blue. The color orange corresponds with the Soul Stone, sure, but also corresponds with the quantum realm, which we saw in the Ant-Man movies and Loki. It's all orange colored. And guess what? The TVA, or Time Variance Authority, is believed to be run out of a city called Chronopolis, which is a city where Kang the Conqueror dwells. And we all know, after watching the final episode of season 1 of Loki, that Kang is now openly dominating and running the TVA. Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, and his crew are going back into the quantum realm, and they're going to encounter Kang. And when it comes to the quantum realm, it's an entirely different dimension unto itself. It's a different dimension, therefore, from the Noor dimension, making that energy and or Shang-Chi and the powers he exhibits through the 10 Rings now different from the power of the Jinn and Miss Marvel herself. So again, I don't think there's as direct a connection between the 10 Rings and Miss Marvel as other theorists are arguing. Kang totally thrives off quantum energy and basically rules the dimension, so nobody's going to be able to beat him at his own game, which means that it's time to discuss Kamala Khan's connection to it all. Now, first, I want you to know that in the beginning of 2022, the good folks at Marvel, seemingly out of nowhere, released an infographic that relates to the Power Stone, tracing its known history and various plot points where it became important to the MCU. Why would they do that, you ask? After all, the Infinity Saga kind of wrapped up in the Avengers Endgame movie, and as of Loki, the Infinity Stones are no longer the MacGuffin they were. They're now just paperweights, especially in the freaking quantum realm where the TVA and Kang are. But I digress. I don't think that this was some random occurrence. They were laying down a track upon which to overlay the whole Miss Marvel purple powers, purple energy, and they're establishing the Kamala's power set as a very different origin related to a very different singularity than that of the Space Stone, cosmic-based powers, and the Soul Stone, quantum-based powers. Keep in mind that the updated version of the 10 Rings symbolism, we won't get into why it was changed. That's a whole other video for a whole other day. Well, keep in mind that the 10 Rings symbols are Chinese, and when you decipher them, they all relate to the concept of power one way or another. For example, there's symbols like, and pardon me please if I mess up the pronunciation of the words related to these symbols, but there's symbols such as Hong, meaning large, extensive, or great. Zhang, meaning powerful or grand. Qiang, meaning strong, powerful. Wei, meaning powerful. Quan, meaning power or authority. Li, meaning physical strength or power. I mean, you get the idea. So this Easter egg might not just be a hat tip to the 10 rings having a connection with the severed Kree arm, like I described above. It might be a repetitive hat tip to power, meaning the purplish color of Kamala's powers appear to me much like that of the Power Stone, which, as you recall, was also one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Purplish coloration, when it comes to the use of powers, relates to that of magic. You've seen the Disney Plus series WandaVision. You'll recall that when Agatha Harkness used magic or witchcraft, it was that same purplish color. To me, it's no surprise that Miss Marvel's bangle lights up purple when it's being used. There's also no surprise that when Kamala first put on the bangle, that she passed through another dimension that was the same shade of magical power-based energy. Now, we're totally going to be hopping universes and dimensions where the quantum realm and quantum-based power, cosmic power, and magic are both going to factor in big time going forward in the MCU. In my video, they changed Kamala Khan's powers. Kevin Feige explains why. We got into a discussion as to why they've changed Miss Marvel's powers specifically, so be sure to check that video out after you're done watching this one. The brains behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe just have to have a storyline where they power Kamala up as Miss Marvel even more than ever before, with power that comes from her own dimension, not Kang's, because she's never going to be able to beat him using his own energy signature. She's going to need all of the brute, magical, noir, and light, and overall power-based energy possible to fight Kang as the MCU continues to unfold. In my video, Negabands, Why Does Miss Marvel Have Them?, I specifically lay out all of the powers the Negabands have versus the powers that Kang has. Once you're done watching that video, you're gonna be very likely to agree with my theory. Whether Kamala Khan hangs out with Shang-Chi or not, whether she becomes a member of the Avengers down the road or not, that's all fine and dandy, but I think that the 10 Rings Easter egg has a lot of meanings behind it, not just a direct tie between Shang-Chi and Kamala due to their powers alone. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And now it's on to the Mama Saga post-credit scene. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel because in the next planned video, I'm going to drop some details about why I think we're going to see Great Grandma Aisha before the Miss Marvel miniseries is over. And we're going to talk about why Senna Ornani has aged when the clandestines clan of Jinn really have not, and why that's important for Kamala herself. And Muniba, we're going to be exploring Muniba's lines in the miniseries up until now, and I have a theory as to what that means for Kamala and the entire Khan family moving forward. I acknowledge that I've announced this video before, but honestly, when I was doing research for that video, I realized I just had to get this video out. The one you're watching first. So, anyway, you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to the Mama Saga for more comic book saga breakdowns, Salty Mama style. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you next time.